The Strip used to hum in a dozen languages, French laughter echoing over Bellagio's fountains, Japanese families snapping photos in front of Caesar's palace, British accents drifting through the MGM lobby, their suitcases full of expectations and casino dreams. But walk through Las Vegas Boulevard today, and you'll notice a strange silence, not the absence of noise, but the absence of diversity. Before the pandemic, international travelers were the golden heartbeat of Las Vegas. They didn't just come to gamble, they came to experience America's most theatrical city. They stayed longer, spent more, and filled the luxury suites that kept billion-dollar resorts alive. For every weekend trip from Los Angeles, there used to be a honeymoon from Paris or Tokyo. That difference wasn't just romantic, it was economic. Now, years after borders reopened, the city still hasn't fully recovered that pulse. Flights from Asia remain limited, European tour groups have shrunk. Chinese high rollers, once the most prized demographic on the casino floor, have nearly vanished. The high-spending travelers who once powered the fine dining and designer stores of the Strip are still missing in action. The result? A quieter, more domestic Vegas, one that survives on weekend road trips and conference attendees. It's still crowded, yes, but not the same. Ask the taxi drivers, the luxury retailers, or the dealers at the baccarat tables, they'll tell you the vibe changed. And so the question emerges like a neon riddle in the desert. If the world stopped coming to Vegas, who will fill the void? Because in a city built on spectacle, losing your audience is more dangerous than losing your fortune. There was a time not long ago when Las Vegas wasn't just an American playground. It was the global stage of indulgence. In 2019, nearly 6.7 million international visitors poured into the city, accounting for almost 1/5 of all tourism revenue. These weren't casual weekend gamblers, they were globetrotters seeking the myth of Vegas, the shimmering mirage of freedom, excess, and fantasy that existed nowhere else on Earth. From the Japanese honeymooners checking into the Bellagio's lakeside suites, to the wealthy Chinese businessmen exchanging chips at the baccarat tables of the Wynn, the Strip spoke in every accent imaginable. British stag parties filled Fremont Street, Brazilian influencers took selfies at the Venetian, Australians toasted shots at the Mirage. Every face in the crowd seemed to come from a different corner of the world, and that diversity turned the desert into a global festival. These international guests didn't just fill rooms, they filled balance sheets. The average overseas traveler spent nearly twice as much per day as a domestic visitor. They bought Rolexes at Crystals, booked private tables at Omnia, and dined at Michelin-starred restaurants like Joël Robuchon or Guy Savoy. For casino owners, they were the dream customers, loyal, extravagant, and endlessly curious about the American way of luxury. Events helped fuel this global flow. The Consumer Electronics Show, CES, brought in hundreds of thousands of business travelers from Asia and Europe each January. The SEMA Auto Show, the boxing matches at MGM Grand, and the UFC nights at T-Mobile Arena kept the city buzzing year-round. Las Vegas wasn't just a destination, it was a calendar of global entertainment. And behind the neon, there was a quiet but crucial infrastructure keeping it all running. Direct international flights from London, Paris, Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing. These air bridges carried not just passengers but prosperity. A single full flight from Shanghai or Heathrow could mean millions in potential spending across hotels, casinos, and retail. But it wasn't just about money, it was identity. Las Vegas had become a global crossroads where East met West under a million blinking lights. Tourists came not just to gamble, but to witness a living symbol of modern America, the idea that anyone could dream big, win big, and lose big all in one weekend. And then, it stopped. Almost overnight, those flights disappeared, borders closed, the city's soundtrack, once a symphony of languages, went mute. For the first time in decades, Las Vegas was speaking only to itself. The golden age had ended not with a bang, but with silence. In March 2020, the city that never slept went dark. The Strip, once blazing like a beacon across the Nevada desert, fell silent for the first time in its history. The fountains of Bellagio stopped dancing. Slot machines were unplugged. Hotel lobbies echoed with nothing but the sound of air conditioning. Las Vegas, a place built entirely on people, suddenly had none. The numbers were catastrophic. International arrivals dropped by over 90%. Entire airline routes vanished overnight. No more London to Las Vegas, no more Tokyo, no more Shanghai. Convention halls that once hosted 1 million global visitors a year turned into empty shells of glass and steel. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority estimated losses of more than $35 billion in just 12 months. Inside the luxury resorts, the damage ran even deeper. The high-end clientele, the ones who filled the baccarat rooms, ordered $1,000 champagne, and tipped valet drivers with $100 bills were gone. Hotels that had been built to serve a global elite suddenly had to fight for survival in a domestic-only market. The effects rippled across every layer of the economy. Caesars Entertainment furloughed thousands. MGM Resorts laid off entire departments. The Wynn and the Venetian, once symbols of global glamour, became quiet fortresses, guarded not by doormen but by silence. The opulent suites that once hosted celebrities, business magnates, and royal families now stood dark, a haunting reminder of how fragile a city of lights could be. Even when domestic travelers began to return, the numbers didn't add up. American road trippers couldn't match the lavish spending of foreign guests. The luxury retail stores on the Strip, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Cartier, saw sales drop to historic lows. High-end restaurants reduced hours, and some Michelin chefs packed their knives and left the desert. For decades, Las Vegas had relied on an unbroken global current money flowing in from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. That current stopped. What was once a global cash flow turned into a desert drought. And yet, within the chaos, there was also a strange sense of rebirth. The city that had reinvented itself countless times from mob town to megasort capital was forced to evolve once again. Casino floors were redesigned for social distancing. Virtual conventions went online. Marketing pivoted toward domestic travelers, couples, families, and digital nomads looking for an escape from lockdown life. Still, insiders knew the truth. Without the return of the big spenders from abroad, Las Vegas could not sustain its golden facade forever. The lights might come back on, but the money behind them was running dim. As 2021 began, executives across the Strip whispered the same uneasy question. When the world comes back, will they still come here? When the world shut down, Las Vegas turned inward. If the planes weren't coming from Tokyo or London, the cars would come from Los Angeles, Phoenix, Salt Lake City. The city's lifeline shifted from international flights to interstate highways. By late 2021, road trips replaced long-haul travel, and Vegas learned to live off its own backyard. The numbers looked hopeful at first. Visitor counts started climbing again, nearly 32 million people in 2022, then 38 million in 2023. The Strip was busy, the hotels were booked, and casinos buzzed once more. But beneath the surface, something fundamental had changed: the type of visitor. Before the pandemic, a high percentage of Las Vegas's revenue came from the deep pockets of international guests. Travelers who stayed an average of 5 nights and spent freely on shopping, gourmet dining, and VIP tables. The new wave of domestic tourists was different. They came for shorter stays, hunted for package deals, and gambled less. Their average expenditure per trip was nearly 30% lower than that of international visitors. Las Vegas had become, for many Americans, not an exotic dream, but a convenient escape, a weekend playground within driving distance. The road trippers filled hotel rooms, but not luxury suites. They packed into food courts and buffets instead of fine dining. They sought pool parties and affordable entertainment rather than high-stakes tables or front-row concert seats. The casinos noticed it first. Baccarat, once the signature game of international high rollers, saw its revenue share fall sharply, replaced by low-limit blackjack and penny slots. Table minimums were reduced to lure in casual players. The sound of clinking chips grew lighter. Luxury retailers at the Forum Shops and Crystals reported similar declines. A Gucci manager confided to local media, "The foot traffic is back, but not the spending power. Even the valet workers and cocktail waitresses felt it. The tips got smaller, the nights longer." What had once been an economic pyramid built on global wealth was now supported by a domestic middle class recovering from inflation and high gas prices. The math didn't work as cleanly as before. To compensate, the resorts turned to marketing. Massive campaigns targeted regional travelers with slogans like "Only Vegas and what happens here, only happens here." Special deals bundled hotel stays with free parking, discounted buffets, or show tickets. The goal was simple: fill the rooms, even if each guest spent less. The results? A city full again, but less profitable. The Strip still glowed, but margins thinned. Total visitor spending recovered slower than head counts. And the difference was visible everywhere. Shorter lines at designer boutiques, fewer limousines at hotel entrances, quieter VIP lounges. Still, Las Vegas refused to fade. It adapted. The city that had survived mob wars, recessions, and housing crashes was once again reinventing itself, this time for the American traveler. It started promoting new experiences beyond gambling: desert hikes, music residencies, culinary festivals, sports events, Instagrammable art installations. Vegas was learning how to be more than casinos and champagne. It was becoming a full-blown entertainment ecosystem. But there was no denying the shift. The high-spending foreign whales had been replaced by local weekenders. The money flow changed direction from a river of global wealth to a trickle of domestic leisure. And everyone in Vegas knew the lights were still bright, but the sparkle wasn't quite the same. When the luxury suites went dark and the baccarat rooms stood empty, Las Vegas faced its most existential question in decades. How do you sell extravagance to a country still recovering from crisis? The answer, as it turned out, was reinvention, a skill this city had mastered since the days of the Rat Pack. By 2022, the marketing engines of Las Vegas roared back to life. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority launched new campaigns built around a simple promise: what happens here only happens here. Gone were the glossy ads aimed at foreign elites. In their place came bold, emotional stories designed for domestic audiences, young professionals, couples, and digital creators chasing an escape from routine. Vegas leaned into entertainment. Massive investments poured into spectacles that could grab headlines and social media feeds alike. The world's biggest artists, Adele, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, and U2 launched residencies that turned concert nights into once-in-a-lifetime experiences. The MSG Sphere opened in 2023, a $2.3 billion visual marvel that redefined what a live show could be. For the first time, the audience wasn't watching the stage was watching them. And then came sports, the new religion of Las Vegas. The arrival of the Raiders, the Golden Knights, and soon the A's transformed the Strip into America's newest sports capital. The Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix in 2023 sealed the deal. A roaring river of supercars raced down the same streets that once carried limousines of gamblers. For a weekend, the city became the center of the world again, just in a different way. These events filled hotels and headlines, but also served another purpose. They reminded Americans that Las Vegas wasn't just about gambling. It was about moments. Moments of spectacle, of shared excitement, of collective disbelief that such a place could exist in the desert at all. Meanwhile, resorts adapted to the spending habits of a younger audience. Casinos rebranded as integrated entertainment hubs. Spaces once reserved for high-limit tables turned into digital gaming lounges, TikTok-worthy cocktail bars, and immersive attraction. The Mirage introduced new music-driven experiences, while Resorts World tapped into influencer marketing with luxury suites designed for online creators. The city also doubled down on conferences and conventions, the backbone of its non-gaming economy. With international trade shows slow to recover, Vegas pivoted to domestic tech, e-commerce, and healthcare summits. The formula was simple: if the world won't come to Vegas, bring America's industries to Vegas instead. The result? Partial recovery. Room occupancy climbed back, restaurant bookings rose, and the airport expanded domestic routes to over 150 cities. But insiders knew the truth. Without the return of international big spenders, the city's growth would always have a ceiling. Still, in typical Las Vegas fashion, there was optimism in the neon. The city had proven once again that it could survive by transforming crisis into spectacle. Because if there's one rule in Vegas, it's this: when the game changes, you don't fold, you double down. By 2024, the Strip was glowing again, but something was still missing. The crowds were loud, the hotels were full, yet the energy felt different. The accents that once colored every casino floor had faded. The tourists from Seoul, Tokyo, London, and Paris, once the city's most loyal high spenders, hadn't returned in force. The question haunted every resort executive in town: why isn't the world coming back? The first reason was simple economics. Inflation had reshaped global travel. For European tourists, the cost of a Las Vegas vacation had soared nearly 40% since 2019. Flights became pricier, the dollar stronger, and hotel rates skyrocketed as domestic demand surged. What used to be a mid-range getaway for a Brit or a German couple now felt like a luxury they couldn't justify. Across Asia, the situation was even more complicated. China, once the biggest source of international gamblers, imposed strict post-pandemic travel restrictions. Even after borders reopened, outbound tourism remained sluggish. Macau, Las Vegas's main rival, captured most of the returning Chinese VIPs with its proximity and cultural familiarity. Japan and South Korea, meanwhile, saw their currencies weaken sharply against the US dollar, making American trips feel punishingly expensive. Visa delays and airline cuts made things worse. Direct flights from major Asian capitals like Beijing, Tokyo, and Seoul were still operating at reduced capacity. Airfares from Europe stayed stubbornly high, with fewer low-cost carriers and limited seat availability. A return ticket from Paris to Las Vegas in 2024 could cost more than $1,800, almost double the pre-pandemic price. But money wasn't the only barrier. Tastes had changed. The new generation of global travelers, especially in Asia, had grown more selective. Many preferred destinations like Dubai, Singapore, or Bali, which marketed themselves not just as luxury spots, but as symbols of modern identity and social media prestige. Las Vegas, once seen as the pinnacle of Western glamour, was now competing in a global marketplace of fantasy. The problem? Its image hadn't evolved fast enough for some international audiences. To them, Vegas still meant gambling, bachelor parties, and neon excess, not exactly the Instagram aesthetic of 2025. European tour operators quietly admitted another concern: value. The same travelers who once spent freely on luxury suites now complained that Vegas felt overpriced, overcrowded, and less exclusive than before. The charm of once in a lifetime was fading into been there, done that. Still, the city hasn't given up. Airlines are negotiating to restore full schedules. Asian investors are backing new entertainment ventures. And the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority is crafting fresh campaigns not about casinos, but about art, music, and technology. Because to bring the world back, Las Vegas knows it must become more than the world once saw it as. In 2025, Las Vegas stands at a crossroads, once again, a glittering mirage suspended between recovery and reinvention. The lights are bright, the hotels are busy, but the future of its global identity remains uncertain. The city that once defined excess now faces a subtler, more complex challenge: how to bring the world back to its desert of dreams. Economists and tourism officials agree on one thing: international visitors are irreplaceable. Before the pandemic, they made up less than 20% of total arrivals, but contributed over 30% of total spending. They filled the high-end suites, the luxury boutiques, the Michelin-starred restaurants. Their absence still leaves a hole that no amount of weekend road trips can fill. But hope glimmers in the horizon of the Mojave. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, LVCVA, has set its sights on re-globalizing the city. New partnerships with major airlines are underway. Routes from London, Seoul, and Mexico City are being restored, and talks are in progress for new connections to Dubai and Mumbai. The expansion of Harry Reid International Airport aims to handle over 60 million passengers a year by 2026, with a specific focus on reviving long-haul travel. In parallel, the city is reshaping its image. The message is no longer just come and play, but come and experience. High-end cultural projects, art installations, immersive digital galleries, luxury culinary festivals are rebranding Vegas as an entertainment capital beyond gambling. Sphere, the $2.3 billion visual dome, has become a global icon, a sign that Vegas can still innovate on a world stage. The sports revolution continues too. The Super Bowl in 2024, Formula One in 2023, and the growing wave of international concerts have proven that Vegas can sell emotion, not just chance. These events attract global media attention, and with them, a new kind of traveler, experience-driven, tech-savvy, and eager to post it all online. But challenges remain. Competing cities, Dubai, Singapore, Macau, are chasing the same luxury audience with newer, flashier, and often cheaper offerings. Environmental sustainability is also looming large. Vegas consumes vast amounts of water and energy in a region hit hard by drought. For international tourists, increasingly conscious of their ecological footprint, that could become a deal breaker. Still, if any city can rewrite its destiny, it's this one. Las Vegas has died and been reborn more times than any other place in America, from a dusty railroad stop to a gangster paradise, from the neon jungle of the 80 seconds to the mega resort empire of the 2000s. Now, in the 2020 seconds, it faces its next transformation, from an American icon into a global hybrid, a city that speaks every language again, but with a smarter, greener, more sustainable accent. Because the world will return, it always does. The question is not if, but when, and what version of Las Vegas they'll find waiting. Night falls over the Mojave Desert, and the Strip awakens a river of light cutting through the dark. From a distance, it looks unchanged. The same neon glow, the same electric pulse, the same illusion of endless wealth. But listen closely, and you'll hear it, the silence between the sounds. The chatter in French, Japanese, or Mandarin that once floated through casino halls has faded. The laughter, the music, the rhythm of the city now speak in a different tone, local, louder yet somehow lonelier. Las Vegas has always been a mirror of the world. When the world prospered, it glittered brighter. When the world hurt, it dimmed. And now, in this new chapter, it finds itself asking, what happens to a city when its global audience disappears? Perhaps the answer lies in its survival instinct. Vegas doesn't mourn, it evolves. The lights stay on, even when no one's watching. Because this city was never built on certainty, it was built on belief. And as long as the lights keep burning in the desert, there will always be someone, somewhere, dreaming of coming back.